Hello and welcome to the latest Euronet Plus debate. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we've been speaking to decision makers, journalists and citizens across Europe about the latest developments and the wider implications. Today, we're focusing on workers. There are those on the front lines like nurses and doctors looking after the sick, shop staff making sure we have food on the table, waste collectors keeping the streets clean, but to name a few. For the rest of us who remain indoors, our laptops and phones have replaced the boardroom, the radio studio, and the classroom. I'm Kevin Purcell in Brussels, and I'm here with a panel of teachers to speak about how they're coping with remote learning. How does it work? Is it effective? And how does it compare to traditional methods? Joining me from Slovenia, Janja Kolik, and from Germany, Florian Braun. Thank you both very much for talking to us today. I know you're busy and literally in between classes, so we appreciate your time this afternoon. Firstly, I just want to get a sense of how your teaching methods have changed. I'll start with Janja. How have you adapted to the changes? How difficult have they been?
Actually, it was very difficult because we had some problems at the start when not all the students or actually their parents got the materials. And first we had to focus the technical problems with emails, with computers, with tablets and the like. And then further on, when I started using Zoom as well for presenting the new things in the classroom, again, we had to face technical problems. But as for the other stuff, it takes much more time because I'm not in the classroom with them. So what I do is I prepare all the pronunciation cards for them because they cannot pronounce after me the words. I had to really thoroughly write down what they have to do on their own because I don't want their parents to do too much with them. So it's a lot of writing, a lot of explanation, a lot of doing it in another way than I do it in the classroom. So quite a lot of writing, quite a lot of work for the instructions to be, at least to make sure that the majority of the students would be able to do it on their own.
And Florian, I know you teach English and chemistry. As far as I remember, chemistry is quite a practical subject with experiments and that kind of thing. How do you adapt to teaching that via technical means?
So I also had the same difficulties as Janja had. Like when we started, like our online platform crashed, of course, because everyone was using it at the same time. And then we also had to collect all emails, and the younger ones all were not so sure how to use everything. But in chemistry, so now it's a little bit more theoretical, obviously. And I mean, there are a lot of YouTube experiments which they can watch, so I also included some links of that, but of course they're not allowed to do any experiments at home. Nevertheless, they don't have any chemicals they could use, and I don't want them to use it, of course. So that's very sad. Also in English, it's very sad to not be able to make them speak. I mean, they can practice listening, reading, or writing, but I mean, speaking themselves, oral skills cannot be practiced that well at home on their own, as Janja also said, pronunciation wise, and we cannot correct them while speaking and everything. So that's quite difficult too.
And as Janja, you mentioned as well, it's difficult not only for the kids at home as well, but for the wider family who are trying to cope in an enclosed environment. They're trying to make sure their children are up to date with school and work themselves. The whole family environment, it's difficult at the moment.
Yeah, it is. That's why I'm saying I've also tried to choose what I'm doing because not everything can be done actually online, obviously. So what I do is I carefully choose what can be done on their own and what cannot. And then as Florian mentioned, for example, I try to practice pronunciation and the discussion, so speaking through Zoom, and they do writing at home, but that takes a lot of time for me to correct everything because they send me pictures of their essays or short summaries of something, and then I have to it makes it easier for me to print everything out, to correct, and then to scan and send them back. So it takes a lot of time, but it can be done. Yeah.
Is there a danger then that some children might be slipping behind in some ways if it takes extra time to go through the curriculum?
I'm pretty sure that some children yeah, are behind everything, especially, for example, children with special needs. It's quite difficult with them to do everything on their own, although they have parents who help them because their parents, they're not teachers, especially not teachers for children with special needs. Um, but hopefully we can, I mean, I do what I can, like writing their vocabulary and the stuff. And I try to do with the whole classroom, not just with children with special needs, the way I work with children with special needs, because everybody needs different kinds of material now, different methods, different way of learning or actually teaching from me. So I try to do it differently, and hopefully, as far as they tell me, they're quite successful and they like how I've actually adopted to teaching now. What when we're doing it online.
Florian, would you agree with those comments?
So I cannot feel like you do because we don't teach kids with special needs. We have special schools for that. So I'm more for the secondary students. And I would say some might slip behind, but they would also have slipped behind maybe when they were in school. So I would say the strong students, the successful students, they're doing quite well. They're probably doing better than in school because they can manage themselves. I also put on additional things they can do voluntarily. There are a lot of learning apps, a lot of school books offer different free trial accounts and everything. So they are doing quite well. They're doing probably more than they would do during normal school time. But the students which are, let's say, a little bit weaker, a little bit slower, I would say they have more time now to organize themselves. I think they are doing less than in the normal curriculum, so they have more time in total. So I think they are not slipping behind if they do the things they should do. I mean, it's hard to check on them if they're doing it or not. I mean, if I collect the things, yes, but there are so many classes, I cannot collect something from every student every day. So I cannot make sure that everyone does everything 100%. I can do checkups, I can do discussions, and I see if they read the book or if they did the exercise. I can do that, but it's hard to check on them to see if it's successful what we're doing. So that we'll see that afterwards when we see them in person, and if there are exams and one-on-one discussions in class.
Is there a concern that there is maybe a psychological impact as well? Because I mean, school isn't, I suppose, just for learning. They hang out with their friends. There's extracurricular activities. Would you be worried, Florian, about the damage that might be causing as part of the wider sort of issue here?
So I'm a tutor for grade 8, so I'm their main responsible person they're talking to, and I'm in close contact also with individual students, and they're telling me, yes, they're feeling quite lonely, sure, and they also miss their classmates, but they, as far as I know, they have a class group on WhatsApp, and they are writing a lot, they're doing their exercises together, also via Zoom or via, I don't know, WhatsApp video call. So they're also discussing school exercises, but of course they would love to meet their mates in person, which they cannot and which they don't, luckily.
And yeah, you deal with younger children, maybe those in their formative years.
Actually, I teach. No. I teach children ages 10 to 15. So, but it's still primary in Slovenia. But as far as the socialization concerns, the thing is that not everybody meets via Zoom or Snapchat. Like best friends, they do meet like 3, 4 in a group, but not the whole classroom. And what I found out is that when we first saw each other as a classroom via Zoom, they had so much fun. We didn't do much English actually. Like half of the lesson, they were just, oh wow, I haven't seen you for weeks. How are you doing? And they actually talked about everything else but English, which I thought it was fine because, you know, life is not just school and English or our subject that we teach. So I just let them be with themselves, with each other, and talk to each other in Slovenian actually, and they had fun. And when they did that as the whole group, not just 3 or 4 of them, but as a class, you know, 25 of them, After they did that, after 20 minutes, they were doing great throughout the whole lesson. And then the next week again, and the next week again, it was okay because they couldn't see each other as a group, which I found it interesting. So they do miss each other actually, although they sometimes won't admit it.
And in Germany and Slovenia, maybe I'll ask this to Florian first. Are you happy with how the authorities there are dealing with this, in particular with the education system and resources?
So in my opinion, it's quite, yeah, it's hard for us because we don't know how it's going on. I mean, we had 3 weeks of remote teaching. Now we have 2 weeks or another week of Easter holiday. So authorities are deciding this week, I think today or tomorrow, we'll know more about it, how it's going to start next week. They're discussing, are the older ones coming first back, or is it the smaller ones? Are they splitting up classes or everything? So I think not knowing what is going to come is hard. I mean, the situation, I think it was dealt quite well with so far. I mean, as far as you can in education. I mean, we're pretty much on our own. There are not many restrictions, or there are not many things they said we should do or shouldn't. I think we get a lot of feedback from parents, from students, from colleagues. So we try to help each other out. What we found out is good, what works well with Zoom or with, I don't know, Google Teams or which learning apps. So I think it's very important to communicate with one another and to exchange ideas and to exchange things that work well, methods that worked well. So that's very important. But I would say we were pretty much on our own. And it's really hard to not know how it is going to be the next weeks, if it's going back to normal or if we have to keep on teaching remotely.
Yeah.
So you'd like more information about what the plan is. Would you agree with that, Janja?
Of course, it's similar in Slovenia. What we found out like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, was that we are at home until the 17th of April, which is this Friday. But now we don't have any information. I'm pretty sure we're not going back next week, since I listened to the news and to other authorities, not the Ministry of Education, but the Minister of Health and the others. But still, nobody tells us anything, whether we'll go back maybe in May or June. They'll probably give us the information on a very short notice, a couple of days before we do that, which is very difficult for teachers because it depends whether we'll stay at home the whole May. This would, my teaching would be different, or my choice of contents would be different if I knew whether I'd go back in May or in June, or whether we'll just finish online, this school year. So it's quite difficult. And also what bothers me and actually upsets very a lot of parents is that like there are such big differences among schools and among teachers, because we didn't get really good instructions what we can, what we cannot. There were just a couple of, I don't know, pieces of advice what to do, how to work. And then it also depends on teachers, whether somebody's good with technology, whether they're not. And now parents are being very upset because some teachers are doing well, some are struggling, and we also have problems using the technology. Not me personally, but I know that teachers are struggling as well, not just the students.
So there could have been more training involved in all of this, I suppose, if we knew it was coming. What do you think it means for the future? Do you think we will see more remote learning once things get back to normal, or will it be straight back to the normal classroom?
I have no idea. There are some countries, I think Denmark, who will do partly online, partly in life in the classrooms. I have no idea what Slovenia will do. Really, I cannot say. I cannot answer this question. What might happen?
And Florian, what do you think might happen in the future in terms of remote learning?
So this year and the last year, our federal state, I mean, education is dealt with federally in Germany, as you might know. And our federal state, they brought on the way a lot of money for digitalization, which is really, yeah, not so strong right now. And we've also seen that while starting the remote learning, because the server of our learning platform Moodle crashed and everything. So there was a lot of things to do. And I think maybe this also opened the eyes of the authorities to go for digitalization more reflected, or think about it more and put some more effort in it if something like that happens again, or if it's worth to teach more online. So I think they will think about digitalization more and how to help teachers with digital devices and everything. So I think it might also have a good outcome to accelerate the digitalization in our federal state or in Europe.
Okay, well, some interesting viewpoints there from both of you in Germany and Slovenia. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. From us here at Euronet, it's goodbye for now and see you next time.
All right.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.